kids holding iPads and you know, that sort of thing. So it's a little different than what I thought. So I think Scott was going to talk about where should we target. I was in Dale's classroom. Yeah, so John was saying, you got to go look in Dale's classroom because last time I went in there, every kid had an iPad and all. So I walk in there, he had an overhead projector. Okay, John, I mean, that's like, this is a bowling alley, you know. So it was really cool what he was doing, but it was, you know, a regular overhead projector. How funny is that? But anyhow, yes.
This is next Wednesday.
Next
Yes.
Wednesday.
You're in finals.
And so there isn't going to be a lot of that kind of interaction going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at least the first 2 hours by afternoon, if we knew they were coming, we might be able to set things up in the afternoon. The mornings right now of our semester test schedule.
So what's the afternoon schedule at the high schools?
Well, that's that review period, and so let's see, Wednesday afternoon, 8, 3, 4.
Okay. So it'd have to be after 12:30 at the high schools.
At lunch, though, is lunch right there?
Yeah.
Lunch ends at 12:30, and that's when they're starting back into their, unless you're on a different schedule. Okay.
So there will be
Reviews in the afternoon.
I could present a problem because I think they're supposed to be another district. All right, I got to get on the phone. I mean, these film companies, you work on their schedule. They don't work on your schedule. Well, so focus on secondary, and I don't call those shots, but I think it's going to really make us look good, and this is going to be shown to definitely all the legislature when they're in session. That's why they're trying to get it done, and then it'll be when they're trying to push. It's the same goon.org group, and when they want to push technology, they're going to show this. So it's kind of an honor to be in it. It's just we got to, you know, have something going on. All right, thanks.
So with that, Peggy will write down some names. It's interesting as Chuck talked about that with this. The name that came to my mind was Don Thompson, who was at Cloverdale. And when we put those bright links in his classroom, I mean, he was just like on fire. And then he retired. And so, I mean, that was really kind of who we were looking for, is maybe somebody that hasn't traditionally used technology, but they're up and using it now. And so does anybody from your schools come to mind at all that might be good for us to contact and see if they'd be okay with this coming into their classrooms and watching, filming? Well, it's across the board. So I think secondary is going to be a problem because of this semester testing schedule. So, and are middle schools in that same semester testing schedule, or for next Wednesday?
We're doing end-of-course assessment.
Right.
We're doing end-of-course assessment all week.
So all secondaries are going to be. So we'll probably really be looking at elementary schools, I'm guessing. Hey, Dale. Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right, Martine?
Well, the 11th. What's the 11th? Wednesday.
Yeah. It's Tuesday's principals meeting, right? So I'm sure it's Wednesday. Okay. Okay. Rich? Okay. Katrina Reyes. Okay. Did you get that? Katrina Reyes at Cloverdale. Okay. Excellent. Any other suggestions?
Jason's always got those meals.
And Jason with Neos, yeah, we talked about that. At Ammon, anybody doing iPads?
We're doing iPad stuff, so
Anytime? So next Wednesday? Okay. I'll have to look at that. Okay.
Who are you? Sorry. Rebecca Dahl.
At Ammon. Okay. Anybody else? Great chance to get out and showcase what we've done and what we're doing. So I'd love it. I don't know if the foreign language with the video cameras and that we put in, if there's anything that you might have, but oh, is it? Oh, that'd be great. Okay. So Wendy Freeman at Hillcrest with the video cameras. Okay. Feel free to shoot me an email if other names or ideas come to mind on that. So, okay, going back to previous items. First of all, good to be with you. It feels like it's been forever. It's, you know, you miss one meeting and it's 2 months later, and it seems like the world changes around you in just those 2 months. And so, sorry that I was out of town on our regularly scheduled one in December. And we do have quite a bit, I think, to cover because of that. But we'll just start with items from our last meeting with the BrightLink replacements. And Creighton, if you just want to give us a quick update on where we are and what we still have left to do.
We have all of them replaced with ION. We're waiting for them to retool the ones for ION.
Okay.
I know there's been some overheating issues and stuff, so if you guys have problems with the BrightLinks, make sure you let your tech know so we can get those replaced.
So yeah, unfortunately when we've replaced them, we've encountered more problems than we did on the original install. There's been some overheating issues. There's been some electrical issues that we didn't encounter before, so there's it's creating even more work than just replacing the projectors. Okay. Was there anything else left over from our previous agenda we needed to talk about here? That would seem to be the main one that I remembered. So, okay. The next one, the third bullet down, is the D93 Technology Plan, and this is one of those things that it didn't even exist when we met in November, and it's due tomorrow. And so I kind of love how things work with the State Department. So I found out somewhere around Thanksgiving time that with the 21st Century Classroom money that came from the state, that we had to submit a technology plan, and we had about 6 weeks to do it. And of course, it's about 3 weeks later is when they gave the training on it, and then you're down to 3 weeks to actually get something done with it. So I would have liked to have had more time and really had it been a collaborative discussion, but in the tomorrow's the deadline, so it kind of is what it is. I did sit down and talk about it with principals, and so they've at least had a heads up on it, and I'd like to at least give you an overview. I did post the whole thing onto my big campus. There's quite a few spelling and grammar mistakes on there. Most of them are not mine. It's just so you know, as you're reviewing that, it's a web page template, and most of those mistakes are from the state, although I do have a couple that are mine. Yes.
I guess you kind of get me what the NEOS to wanting a 1-to-1 ratio. Most of our classes traditionally are a lot more than 0.5, so I was wondering if you could bump that up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me show you. This is not the plan that goes to the state, but this is the framework that I really started putting together to hopefully talk about why I wanted to make some decisions with what we're doing in the state. So what happened is once that money started flowing, and I really had to stop and think about what is the best use of technology in our classrooms. I mean, we put out $1 million from bond money last year in hardware. We did another $500,000 in software with the Renaissance products, and now we have just this year another $300,000 from the state, and then we've got, in addition to that, we've got the one-to-ones coming at the high schools. We've got more money coming in, and so it's really, I think, imperative that we have a vision on what is it that we're going to do with all that, because the reality is you can sink millions and millions of dollars into technology and not see a drop of improvement from it. And so I really took some time and started thinking about what is it that, what are the best things we can accomplish with that money and with the tools that we're getting. So as I looked at that and did some reading and some research, these are the three big ideas and really in priority. And the first one is individualizing instruction. And some of you have heard me talk about this as we've done some training in Fast Forward and some other places. But I really feel like as a teacher, that's the one thing I always struggled with, is I had a class of 30 or 35 kids. How can I really meet that kid, or where he or she struggles, or where he or she needs accelerated? And to try to do that for 35 kids in a classroom as one teacher was a very difficult, if not impossible, task. And I think that's one thing that is really a benefit of technology. Is it can take students, it can diagnose where their skills are now, and adjust curriculum and instruction to meet them where they need, and especially with our at-risk students. It was interesting, just this afternoon I was over at Hillcrest getting some high school teachers set up on accelerated math, which we really haven't done accelerated math in our high schools in years. And Keith Lepper, who's the department chair at Hillcrest, is pretty excited because he's got this low-level class that these kids have gaps all over the place, you know, because they're now sophomores and juniors. So over 10 years in our public school systems, there's just been places where they've missed instruction or they've never quite picked up on the concept. So using accelerated math, you can really start to address those deficiencies with the kids. So I think that should be our first priority, is we look at what technology will best help us individualize instruction for our students, which really comes down to the software. And this is my one of the kind of arguments I had with the state as they were rolling this out, is as they rolled out that 21st century classroom money, they kept on talking about hardware. They're talking about classroom clickers and response systems and projectors and slates and things like that, which it's great tech, but none of it individualizes instruction for kids. And I said, if you really want to make a difference, if you want to see a difference in student achievement, it's got to come down to the software level, and how can we adjust that instruction for kids. So the tools that we already have in place here in our district, we have our Renaissance Learning products that, again, we just invested $500,000 in for the next 5 years. We have Scientific Learning's Fast Forward, and it does the same thing. It really takes kids, it diagnoses where they are in their reading and starts to provide instruction and remediation and their reading skills based on where they are. With Pearson, at the high schools we have Novanet, which is an online learning program, but that's been a great thing we started last year, where kids that are struggling in classes can now go in and they can take remedial classes through Novanet or make up credits that way. Again, on a really more limited basis, we have Waterford, mostly in our kindergarten classrooms. And then we have another program furnished by Title I called Success Maker. We have about 50 licenses of that, but all that software is really geared around that same concept. And then I think we're, in our district, ahead of the curve with our online learning that really does the same thing for our secondary students in offering alternative options, well, even our elementary kids with our K-12 classes. So to me, that should be our first priority, is looking at what technology can we put in place that's going to individualize instruction for each of our kids. And then 2 more goals: promoting collaboration between either between staff or between staff and students or staff and parents, all those different groups of stakeholders we have. And these are the software packages we have in place, and we'll be talking more about those and some things that we can do with those things to improve that collaboration. And then finally, delivering instruction. And I do think that technology can make a difference with instruction. It can make a difference in engaging students. And I think eventually we'll start to see test scores improve as a result of that. But I don't think we're going to get as immediate results as we are if we can really individualize instruction for them. But some things that go with delivering instruction are the digital projectors that we started putting into classrooms, the dock cameras, the classroom response systems, those kinds of things that the state's been really talking about. Some other things we are going to need to start looking at, especially at the secondary level, are things like asynchronous instruction. It's one of those new words. I don't think that word even existed a year ago, and now it's kind of a buzzword in the state. But that basically means kids take their classes not in the presence of a live teacher. And so they're using podcasts to take those classes or other types of online instruction to do their classes that way. And iPads and iPods, there are ways that we can use those to individualize instruction as well. But I think right now, for the most part, we've been using this whole group instruction, but depending on how we use those, they can definitely come into the individualizing instruction framework. So those are really the 3 big ideas that I see on how we should spend our money, with the key one being individualizing instructions. With that in mind, my thought is we really need to start pushing a one-to-one initiative with Neo2s in our elementary schools and possibly the middle schools. Middle schools are kind of a big question mark to me. The high schools are going to get their laptop provided by the state. We can do the Neo2s from grade 2 through 6 using that classroom technology money. That's going to allow us to teach keyboarding in the middle or in the elementary schools, which is what the Common Core expectations are. But it's also going to let our students get much more engaged with accelerated math and accelerated reader, and those products that we've already spent $500,000 investing in. We can use those much more efficiently than we could. And there's and they really even go beyond that. So middle schools are kind of a big question mark to me on what the right device is. But I would love to see in 3 years our students 2nd through 12th have a one-to-one device, because that's what's going to really individualize instruction for them.
I don't know if you're interested in that on online learning, you can also add the apogee amount that's being provided.
Excellent. Yeah.
And there are the iPods, and the iPads also have audiobooks,
Excellent.
which I use extensively.
Good. And how are you with the iPads? Are you using the audiobooks?
I don't have any iPads. I brought in all my
Oh.
leftover iPods, so I have like an iPod and iPod Touch. I
Nice.
use my phone. I use my computer. So I have like 7 different listening centers.
Oh, cool.
And then through different things, I've got probably around 150 students, like audiobooks for kids' books. And
Terrific.
that allows my students who are at a lower reading level to read higher level books.
Nice.
And they follow along.
Yeah.
But, so
That's what I had to do to get through my Shakespeare class in college, is I had to listen to the books as I read, because, yeah, otherwise I'd go to sleep. So sometimes I watch the videos too, but that didn't work as well. So with that, so that's really the plan that I'm putting out there towards the state. And again, I wish we could have had more of a conversation about it, but it's due tomorrow. But just as you're seeing that for the first time, I know it's probably a lot to digest, but any feedback, either positive or negative, or questions or concerns on moving forward with that plan? So what we would look at is for next year, I mean this year, we heard the money was coming. We got a memo from the State Department saying, here's the money, here's how it's being allocated, and that was it. There was no caveat about needing a technology plan or anything. And so we took it and we allocated it to the schools based on how the state was allocating it to us. And then we, after we made that decision and communicated that to principals and to you, is when we found out about the technology plan that we had to submit. So this year is kind of, it is what it is. But starting with next year's money, my top priority would be, again, the Neo2s. And then if there's money that's left over after that to look at other projects that we would do, that's what we would do. But I really feel like that should be our #1 priority with that money that's coming in. Concerns? Okay. So again, the full tech plan is online if you want to read it and provide me any feedback before tomorrow. By say 2 o'clock tomorrow, I'll probably hit submit about 4 o'clock tomorrow. So any feedback you want to provide me on that, you're more than welcome to. And again, everything that we did and how we released it is perfectly in line with it, and I talk about that in that plan as well. So, okay. Okay, the next part that's tied really directly into that is the Students Comes First legislation. With SchoolNet, Josh and I have been going out to schools and getting everybody signed up for SchoolNet, and that's really all I plan on doing this year, is just getting teachers signed in so they can get in and see their data and play around with their reports. I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of training unless I start hearing from teachers that they want training on it, and then we can look at that. But for this year, I think just getting them in and getting them able to see that data that's there is a great first step. So for those of you that we haven't visited your schools yet, you might want to put a little pressure on your principals to make sure that they're inviting us to your faculty meetings so we can get in and get everybody signed up. It's going pretty well. Now, Josh sent out the email in December saying, hey, go in and sign up yourself, but the process turned out to be much more cumbersome than we had hoped. So it's worked much better having us go and just kind of do a quick walkthrough with people and get them signed up right there while we're in the room. So. Should I talk about the grant or just let the grant go? What do you think, Margine? I'm going to just mention it just because it's good for people, I think, to know that we say no to things. So the State Department, in conjunction with the Albertsons Foundation, it really was the Albertsons Foundation, is doing, they are doing grants for SchoolNet. Basically next year to be a pilot district with SchoolNet. And so some of the other features that are in SchoolNet is there's online lesson planning, there's assessments in it where you can put your assessments in and students can either take them online or they can take them paper and pencil and then track the results in there. There's an RTI module. There's a lot of stuff that's there. So the state is, and again with Albertsons money, is saying districts can apply for a grant to be one of those pilot groups. And I was kind of excited about it, started pushing it, but once I went through a webinar and started realizing everything that would be involved with that and the kind of pressure it would put on us, in conjunction with what we've already started, as we met together as a district team, we decided it would be best not to jump on that horse at this time. So basically we're walking away from about $200,000 to do that project, but I just feel like teachers' time and sanity is worth more than that. So.
And having gone through the first leg of the ISIS project and just knowing the amount of work and problems and figuring things out that went with that, sometimes it's better not to be the first covered wagon across the plains.
Yeah.
It's good to let somebody else take the $200,000 and get filled with barrels, and then once they get them all out, figure out how to do it the right way, then we roll in and participate. So it doesn't mean we can never have it. It just means we won't have it until they have it figured out.
Right. Yeah, it'll be another 2 or 3 years before it's all there, but by that time I think we'll have the STAR assessments under our feet, we'll have some other things under our feet, and we'll be in better shape. So, yeah. And the other part of it is, if we hadn't invested in the STAR assessments, I'd be a lot more open to it, but a lot of the data and the things that they're doing with SchoolNet, we're already doing with the Renaissance products, and so to have one more place you have to go do the same thing didn't seem like it was a good solution for our district to me. So, okay, talked about the one-to-one plan, task force. I'll just briefly mention that the state has a task force on students come first and all the technology stuff, and they made those 57 recommendations to the State Department that were accepted. It's a huge document. Basically, the big ideas coming out of it is that they're pushing that we need to have money for professional development for teachers for the technology, which I think is a good thing. Or at least I did until I heard the State Department talk about how they're going to do that today, and then I kind of had some concerns. But and I'm trying to think what other big ideas were there. They shifted the one-to-one rollout in the high schools from being a grade at a time to a district at a time. So we might end up with laptops in our students' hands, not next year but the year after for every high school student, or it might be 3 years down the road before we're in there. So somewhere in that time frame is how they'll roll those out, and I don't know how they'll decide which districts get them first and who gets them last. There's a lot of questions about the online learning and some recommendations about that. So anyway, just know that document's out there. If anybody's really bored at night and want to read 57 pages of recommendations, it's there. So, any questions or anything else you've heard about students come first that we might want to discuss here? Okay. Okay, Renaissance Learning. With the STAR assessments, we should be hopefully at the elementary schools starting the winter benchmark. Has that been started in most of our elementary schools? Going okay? Any hiccups with it at all, or just timing for the computer labs? Okay.
I've had a few teachers concerned about, because we've asked, to test a certain way because of the winter IRI, so that maybe those second, third graders, waiting and not have time. So my suggestion has been first graders all should probably take STAR and numeracy anyway. And then if you want to give them STAR reading, I don't really think first grade needs to wait for those winter IRI results. Just give them both assessments. Second grade, I've been telling those teachers, go ahead and give them STAR reading. And then after you finish the winter IRI, then those second, third grade students, then just take those 1s and 2s down and do STAR and numeracy. But they could go ahead, I think, all the way second, third grade, go ahead and take STAR reading to begin with, and just go back and hit the ones for STAR and see that not all winter IRI. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah. One thing that's come out with that, and it makes me feel good about what we're doing, is we've had some students that score 3s on the IRI, but they are not scoring well on the STARS. And it's because the IRI is testing fluency and the STARS testing comprehension. And so I think it's good that we're having both measures for our students and knowing a kid could be a very fluent reader but not be able to comprehend very well at all. So it's a good balance we have with that.
Well, and it's like I kind of looked at some numbers the other day. I was really surprised because I had told Scott all along, second graders don't need to take STAR and numeracy, because I taught second grade for years. I didn't, I figured you're fine. But when I looked across the district, there were 2 schools that maybe had 80%, but as a whole in our elementary school second grade students, only about half of them on that fall screening finished as probable readers. So maybe we need to not just jump and say, hell, these kids know how to read. there's probably things on that STAR early literacy that second grade teachers could get some benefit from. So we've got the assessment, why not use it?
Okay. Just real briefly on accelerated math and accelerated reading. We're going to start a monthly meeting with our champions from the elementary schools in the math and reading. So once a month we'll be meeting with them just to kind of go through and troubleshoot any problems we might be having, but also hopefully getting into really the research and the documentation. I know as a teacher, and it's just as true now, we'd get a new product and it'd be great, and I'd get these great manuals on how to use it, and then they'd sit on my shelf because I never had time to sit down and actually go through them. So I'll be going through those with those people and really looking at our practices and make sure we're implementing those products the way that we should. And then we'll hopefully be providing some more training on that for teachers for credit over the summer as well. So, okay. Any other questions, concerns, or thoughts on Renaissance Learning, how things are going? I'm excited for that second benchmark because I think it'll start to kind of balance things out for us. Yes? We do need to do STAR math, yeah.
I'd say second grade on up.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we should be doing a benchmark for second, that we said with STAR math?
Yes.
Second through 11th in STAR math and second through 11th in reading, and then K through 2 on the early lit. Okay. Next thing is My Big Campus, and Joe, do you have an exciting announcement for our elementary folks at all?
Sure.
I'll let you make the big news.
I guess we can get our students, elementary students, logging now. And all they have to do is log in with their student ID number, activities for Renaissance Place, and the person.
Okay, so I know
Password is the first one.
even starting last year when we really started looking at it, I know we had especially some 5th and 6th grade teachers that wanted to do that. So that's now available for every elementary student. We followed the same login protocol. Hopefully we're going to use that for everything with logging in with their student ID number and their first name as their password. So for those teachers that, again, we're not going to do a whole lot of training on it, I don't think right now, but it's there if people want to get in and use it. So especially if you're upper grade kids, I think that could be a good tool to use with them. Secondary teachers, anybody? Dale, are you using My Big Campus at all? I know at Hillcrest there's quite a few teachers using that, but oh yeah, they need to put in their school. Yeah.
We have teachers using it. Our business department, we've done several trainings on it. We probably have solid 10 teachers using it right now, and others learning it.
Good.
We're doing quizzes on it. They're uploading assignments, creating discussion boards. It's going this year.
Great. So it is, and as people get in, and if it's something that they want us to provide training on, we're always happy to do that. I just hate pushing more training out right now because I feel like we've really filled up people's cups with training so far this year. So, just while I'm thinking about that, we have our March 9th Professional Development Day, and we're planning on a couple of things with that. But is there anything, as we're kind of finalizing things, is there anything that anybody feels like we really should focus on for professional development on that March 9th day? It's just a Friday. The middle schools, well, Rocky Mountain is going to a middle school conference. It's here in town. Sand Creek's not those out, right, Lyndon? So we have some ideas planned around both technology as well as some instructional pieces as well. But if there's anything you feel like this is something we really should focus on, we'd be happy to look at that. Anything come to mind right now, or? Okay. Okay, I think the last thing that we had on ours was we wanted to talk about SkyDrive. Has anybody used your SkyDrive at all? One hand goes up. Okay, a couple of hands nodding. So SkyDrive is online file storage that we have. Basically, we moved our email up to Microsoft's servers and we went to Windows Live. So you've got actually 25 gigs of space in a cloud, which is a huge amount. That's more than I've ever seen any other company offer for that. It's free storage, and it's really pretty amazing. If you don't happen to have like Office at home, you can log onto the internet and you can create Excel documents, Word documents, PowerPoint documents, and save them all there online and go back to school and pull them right back down. And so It's a pretty cool tool that we have. To get to it, the simplest way is just to go to Outlook.com like we do for our email. So I'm just showing you this real quickly, I hope. So I went to skydrive.live.com, but if you just go to Outlook.com, which is how you would access your email online, like I have here, you have this Office link, and these are all documents that you can have stored online. And so for me, using these kinds of things has eliminated me carrying flash drives almost completely, which is great because I used to either break or lose my flash drives. It seemed like I was losing or breaking 2 or 3 a year. But you can create documents right there online. These are ones that I have stored there. And you have 25 gigs total, which again is a huge amount. And then you also have, as part of that 25, there's 5 gigs that you can actually sync back and forth between your computer at school and with your SkyDrive. And so you can actually have them locally on your computer at school, plus have them up in the cloud. And so again, we haven't talked a lot about this. I think we'll kind of start doing a little bit of like either webinars about it or something, just so teachers know. And there's some ways you can even share documents out through this with, say, students, but I really think My Big Campus might be a better option for sharing documents with students than SkyDrive. There's some reasons for that, but we'll kind of, like I said, we'll do some more talking about it, but it's a good thing just to let teachers know, hey, instead of carrying a flash drive around, you've got 25 gigs online that you can use that's completely free to use. So 25 gig flash drive would cost you about $50 in the store. So okay, so that's our agenda. I almost made 4:30. I made 4:20. So, but I feel like I'm talking a lot. I'm not hearing a whole lot. So I'd love to hear more. Yeah, that's great. So with our secondary students, we're just in the process of rolling out email addresses for our secondary students. So all of our secondary students will have a d93.k12.id.us email address. Oh, sorry.
No, it'll be bongobees.com,
Oh.
Rocky Mountain.com, and St.
Okay. And then with that, that's again going up here through the cloud, so all of our students will have that same 25 gigs of storage online that we have. So it could really change what we do with our file storage here at ours. So yeah. Yes. Okay. Was that your post? Okay. So here's how the policy reads, and Bruce looks like he slipped out. The policy that we currently have is about 6 years old, and it governs phones with cameras, but it doesn't govern any other device. And so right now, we really don't have anything, right, Val, that would govern, say, an iPod. An iPhone with a camera would be illegal, but an iPod with a camera is not. I mean, that's the reality. So that's definitely a policy we need to take a look at. Because I do think we get into some privacy issues and things like that with that. So yeah, an iPad 2 is going to have a camera on it. A new iPod Touch is going to have a camera on it. And again, if it's a phone, then the policy covers it, but it doesn't cover other devices. Right. So,
I mean, the kids find, the parents find the privacy thing where they want the child's name posted and everything.
So that no, because we're not the ones publishing it. So it's another student publishing it. So I mean, I would think there could be some liability between those students. I don't know that we would have a liability to protect students from their information getting posted from another student to YouTube. Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting discussion that I think we need to have. So I'll mention that to Bruce and see what we want to do. Yeah, I don't even think in the code of conduct there's anything regarding it that I can remember. So
my little mind right now saying I can see those little 4th grade boys taking it in there and just doing an audio of whatever's going on in the bathroom, and then everybody's giggling because somebody's playing,
Yeah.
you know, I think it is something we're gonna have to address, because.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're talking the mother of 4 boys, who would have never done anything like that.
That's a great question. No, I mean, those are the kinds of things we need to hear so that we can start looking at what do we need to do to put our right policies in place. So, anything else going on? Any questions, Brett?
Yeah. Our elementary kids can have access to
So they still could, because what I did when I saw I had 25 gigs, I went ahead and I created a second email address just with them, so I had another 25 gigs through a different email address. So anybody can go on, and with a Hotmail account or a Live account, they're the same thing. You can get the same access. And so if you wanted to tell your students, we're not going to create those at our level because, again, it all has to do with how we have our kids set up. And 7th grade is when we start giving them computer accounts. If we push that down, then that costs us about $35,000 a year that we don't have right now. So, but you can definitely have students go on and do it themselves, have them create their own email address if they don't already have one. And if they already have an email address, they can actually create a Live account with that existing email address. So I had like a Gmail account. I just went here and associated it with this, and ended up with the storage from this too. So, okay. Any other questions, concerns, complaints? Yeah. That they're not allowed. And so, but the reality is it's almost impossible to find a phone without a camera. So when I was an assistant principal at Hillcrest, I just said as long as you're not using it as a camera, it's not a camera. But the second you do, it's a camera, and then it's in violation of the policy. So you at least got that leg to stand on if it's a phone. Yeah. Okay, anything else from anyone? Tech department, guys, anything? Okay, thank you very much for coming. Again, if you have anything, please feel free to post it to My Big Campus. If you're not getting emails about this meeting, please join the group at My Big Campus to get those emails.
Okay, so it's just trying to log on to My Big Campus.
Okay.
And, you know, you sent an email earlier and it had that link. And then I clicked on the link and it came up, but my username and password must be, I don't know what it is.
It should just be your district one. And so
I did that, it wouldn't let me.
let's just log in quick.
Isn't it Colburn and Colburn.com or something like that?
So you're just going to log in, right?
Yeah. And it should be Colburn or Yeah.
And then just come down here and type Cloverdale. That's what you need to do. So come down here and type Cloverdale, hit Cloverdale Elementary, and log in.
Okay, I don't know, I just wanted to check, is there a requirement that you cover from K to 12 in the plan? Because the only thing that's in there for kindergarten is Waterford, which is like a 25-year-old
Right.
software, so.
Right. So the question would be, what do you think the best